You ready? Okay. Hello again. My name is Dean Graves, and I'm one of the co-founders of Prima Healing Meditation. This is the fifth in our series of presentations on the Law of One. The information that we are presenting is from a variety of sources. It's primarily from a series of channelings that were done in the 1980s with a group of people in Louisville, Kentucky, and they can be found on the internet at llresearch.org. The balance of the information is information that has been provided to me by my higher self. And the purpose of making these presentations is to provide the information, but also in preparation for changes that we will be experiencing next month. So that's why we're here, and that's who we are, and I thank you all for coming. Tonight's topic, well, I want to mention, last week we did not go through all of the stars and planets that are part of the Confederation territory. And hopefully you all received the email noting that I typed those up and posted those on Google Documents so that you can, if you're interested, you can download them. One thing I did want to mention about those, in the planets, you may have noticed that there's a large number of service to self planets included in that list, an inordinate amount. Usually service to self only constitutes about 10% of the total, and they were the number of planets constituted almost half of the planets that were included in the territory. And there's a reason for that, and I'll start our presentation tonight with the reason for that, because it sets the tone for how we began as an experience. At the time that we began our experience, Ra was very out of balance, and not just the Ra in our territory, but the Ra in all of the galaxy. What that meant was that we, and I think I mentioned this before, that at one time the Milky Way galaxy, our galaxy, was part of the Andromeda galaxy. And they split. And I don't know when they split, but it was before I was born, a long time ago. And we became a separate galaxy. And we entered the path of what is called a fall system. And a fall system, very simply, is a system that goes negative, service to self. And so the entire galaxy has still at this time an inordinately large percentage of the experiences that are occurring are negatively oriented. So that's kind of the precursor of how our experience started. And somehow, and I do not understand how, Earth became the linchpin for whether our galaxy would continue and become a fall system, a negative path. And if our galaxy had gone negative, it would have affected vast amounts of our logos and how it operated and functioned. So, relatively speaking, you might consider that we started out, relatively speaking, in what we would perceive as a point of desperation. From the higher consciousness, it was not a point of desperation, but from our perspective, that's how we began. And how an experience begins, very simply begins with, every third density experience begins with the formation of a council of 12. Now this council of 12 is for that third density experience. It's all under, in our franchise territory, under the Council of 12. What the Council of 12 is a compilation of all 9 archetypical aspects of the Creator. But in order to get 12, one entity will invest more energy in an experience than the others. In our particular experience, and we're not up to earth yet, in our experience that we're just generally calling humanity, Ra invested 75% of the energy. Lucifer invested 12% of the energy, and Yah and Law, Law being wisdom and Yah being unity, invested the other third of the enterprise. And so the Council of 12 is comprised 4 parts of Ra, because Ra has most of the energy in it. And then each of the other aspects has one position on the circle of 12, totaling the 12 members. Okay? They are still with us. They are primarily responsible for all of our energy being here. They have managed our entire experience. Okay? Our experience began approximately 850,000 years ago. It began on a planet by the name of Zenoa, Z-E-N-O-A. Zenoa actually was a law experience. When we entered into what I would call our configuration that I just outlined for you as far as the energy invested, we were already in process on Zenoa in first density. In other words, we were divided up into atmosphere, earth, fire, and water. And we were going through our first density experience. And I'm not sure whether it was decided or whether it occurred at that time, but in order to try to balance Ra needed to get more spiritual mass to the higher ranks of Ra in a hurry. And in order to do that, Ra had to move through the levels of consciousness in a hurry. But it had to go through all the levels of consciousness. And how you gain spiritual mass is your investment progresses back up through the levels of consciousness. And as you move through the levels of consciousness, you pick up spiritual mass. You pick up consciousness. Okay? And that was that was the plan in order to balance Ra. When Ra is out of balance, everybody's out of balance. All the other aspects are out of balance too. So it's a coordinated effort. But we began as first density beings, consciousness, on the planet Zenoa. And it was determined that we would jump second density and begin a third density experience on Zenoa. And if you recall from our previous presentations, a third density experience is the one density that has a specific beginning and a specific end. It is the shortest duration. It's only a little over 75,000 years. So a third density experience was begun on Zenoa with a joint venture between Ra and Law. We remained a Law experience through the first entire third density experience, which was successful. We were moved up, we who were Law, moved up into this third density experience and began a third density experience. We also had with us, and many of you were of Law, of Ra, excuse me. So we had a Law and a Ra combined third density experience. There was a distinct difference. Those of Ra began their third density experience with twice the consciousness of those of us that were of Law. And the reason for that was to try to spur them through. Even though they had twice the consciousness, they still had to go through the whole third density experience and graduate from the third density experience. Okay? So we began our experience on Zenoa, completed all 3 sections an entire third density experience successfully. And in the original raw material that was channeled to the folks in Louisville, Rob describes his third density experience as being very harmonious. Well, it was. The reason it was very harmonious was they had twice the consciousness as a normal third density experience. Okay? And most of those that are wanderers, and we're going to explain wanderers next week, most of those that are wanderers of raw here now began at the same time, moved through the process very quickly, and a large number graduated at the first third of the experience and moved on to fourth density and proceeded through fourth density. All didn't, but large numbers graduated in that first segment. After the first segment, everybody didn't graduate, created a second third density experience on Zenowa. Okay, just kind of decided, well, it worked well this first time, we'll do it again on Zenowa. On Zenowa, the second time around, the second third density experience, the higher consciousness members of Ra were not part of the population. Okay, we did great for the first third of the third density experience. And beginning the second section, the second 25,000 years of the third density experience, our DNA was limited. It was genetically adjusted. You remember the illustration that we did last week of how the vibration creates our DNA? Well, that was interfered with. And our DNA was limited to be 20 strands of DNA. So we had our first density fully activated, our second density fully activated, but our third density activation was limited to 20. We got to the middle of third DNA consciousness and we couldn't go any higher. And since that time, we have been stuck at that level of consciousness. And the determination was made, it's all just experience anyway, we're going to let it run and see what happens. I mean, we weren't harmed by it, it just changed the parameters of the video game that we were experiencing, that we were living. Okay? Is that clear as mud? Okay. Okay, so in the middle of the second third density experience on Zenowa, we blew the atmosphere off the planet. Absolutely just wiped it out. Okay? So we didn't get to finish that third density experience. We had at that time 3 opportunities to graduate in the first Zenowa experience, 1 opportunity to graduate the first segment of the second experience. We had a total of 4 opportunities to graduate. So they had to figure out something to do with us. So they started another third density experience from scratch. We didn't pick up where we left off in Zenowa. We started another third density experience from scratch on a planet called Maldak. You know, Maldak we know today as the asteroid belt on the outside of Mars. And we began another third density experience on Maldak, progressed through the first third of it. In the middle of the second third, we not only blew the atmosphere off the planet, we blew the planet up. That's why it's an asteroid belt. Yes, sir?
You said that was the second third of it? Or the
It was in the middle third.
middle third, so were there graduates from the first third?
There were graduates from the first third. Yeah.
Do we know how we did that in Zenowa, and as far as the atmosphere goes?
Well, only from the reference of nuclear and other crystal weapons. We were very fond of crystal weapons.
In Maldak too?
In Maldak too. Maldak we went to the extreme and blew
And
the
the
whole
crystal
planet.
weapons is what's supposed to have been in Atlantis too.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. So,
Where are they now?
the crystal weapons, they're in the debris of Maldak, I guess.
I mean, we don't have any here?
Not that I'm aware of.
Nuclear is enough, isn't it?
Well, they've been stingy with letting that knowledge get out. We haven't played well with others. So after Maldak, Ra was sufficiently well balanced in order to take over. So the law planet that progressed through the two segments on Zenoa and on Maldak, Ra took over the management and became, for the most part, our higher selves that were still in third density. Okay, so Ra stepped in. We didn't start with raw energy, and we didn't go through the first couple of phases, first three phases really of our experience to date as a law student. We went through as a law student, and then Ra took over after we destroyed Maldak.
Is it fairly common for other third density experiences that not our particular strand to destroy themselves?
It's not unheard of. It's not as common as what we've made it.
Is it an anomaly?
It's an anomaly, yes. We'll call it an anomaly. NASA likes anomalies, so we'll call it an anomaly. Okay? So we began as Law. We were partnered with Ra. We became a Ra enterprise after Maldak. Okay? After Maldak, we started another third density experience on Mars. And we began all over again. Again, we went through the first third, no problem. We started the second third, and in the middle of the middle third, again, we blew the atmosphere off the planet. So we have a history that comes with us. But between Maldak and Mars, we who were in third density made the decision that something's not right, that we need to fill in some blanks in our beingness. We missed second density, and it was a determination, it was a group determination. After Maldak, we were dispersed. There were parts of us that went to other planets to do third density. And we who were left decided that we needed additional second density experience. And so we came to Earth. We were still third density, but we were put into second density bodies. And the second density bodies that we were put into, we know as Bigfoot. And we did a couple of lifetimes, and those lifetimes were approximately 900 years. So we did a couple of lifetimes, and there are still some of us on Earth in Bigfoot bodies. Since that time, we're still learning second density lessons and haven't gone back to third density. They're still third density spirits. They're still third density beings, but they're living a second density life to experience the second density life that we apparently felt that we missed that would be helpful to our progress. Okay? So after we came to Earth and we did our thing as Bigfoot on Earth, and then we went to Mars and we blew the atmosphere off of Mars. We were then hurriedly had to do something with this. They brought us to Earth, and Yah was one of the investors in the process, adapted the ape to accommodate our beingness in third density. So approximately 76,825 years ago, we began a third density experience on Earth.
Would that have been a Neanderthal?
No, it was more advanced than the Neanderthal, I think. I don't know, I really haven't.
Cro-Magnon, you wouldn't classify it with any of these things?
Well, those were years before. You have to understand that just because a third density experience begins does not coincide, it does not mean there wasn't
With the,
physical bodies in formation before that
with
time.
the evolutionary process.
Right. But that's the biological process, and it goes on all the time without being imbued with a third density spirit. In order to have a third density experience, you have to invest third density spirit into the beings. So the beings are in formation all the time. So, the scientists that have found remains of beings, many, many years before, 76,000 years ago, yes, but they were just biological evolutionary processes and was not the spiritual experience that we have finished or are finishing as a third density being.
Are there any of us, what we call humanoid now, walking around that weren't invested with that spirit? That were not invested with the third density?
There is a mix of beings here today, which we'll get into next week, because that's pretty involved on another path. But yeah, there are all sorts of beings that are here. Earth is what is called a second chance planet.
Cool.
Because we've been all through this process many times before and didn't do that well. We have at this time third density beings trying to graduate from 15 different experiences around the galaxy. So we are a
Hodgepodge.
we're a hodgepodge. We're I like to refer to it as we're Australia. They sent everybody to Australia just to see if they could survive, and we're all the criminals from other experiences that were sent to Earth to see if we can survive. So we have an interesting path, and it is commonly held around the universe that we are the game to watch. We are of prime interest to everyone in the galaxy. We are the most popular show on primetime television. And there was literally a line. You had to ask to be incarnate here now. So everyone that is here wanted to be here. Roughly half of our population, roughly half of the 7 billion population, is a third density being going through the experience seeking to graduate.
Do we compete to come?
Well, it wasn't so much competition as it was, you send in your application and call your uncle and see if he knows anybody that can get you. So this is deemed to be a very interesting experience. There's not another experience apparently that is going to be just like this experience. There has not been. And for a variety of reasons, we're a very difficult experience. Not only because of our history, but because of other things that are going on. But we are deemed to be
Hard
the
note.
game to watch. We're it. We're the game of the week. Okay? Zenoa actually is Venus. We named it Venus. That's why Venus is the way that it is. Nothing is ever lost, except for Malbec, but nothing is ever lost. So we already covered last week that Mars is a fourth density planet that is fully occupied and fully functioning. Venus is fully occupied by a fifth density entity. It's just our perception that it is not inhabitable, and it is not inhabitable with a third density body, either one of those. Thanks to us. We adapted them as they are. Earth began approximately 76,000 years ago. 76,825 years ago. Our third density experience ended December 26, 2011. We are in a holdover period. We're in overtime. Okay? Originally, it was planned at the time of the original challenge of the raw material back in 1981, it was anticipated that they would just let the experience play out, and that third density had enough energy to last between 100 and 700 years in order to finish out, see if we could get more people to graduate. That's been changed. The new plan, and I don't know all of it, but the new plan included the artificial elevation of our DNA last May 6th, which again is just capacity. In and of itself, it's not additional consciousness. But at least we now have the capacity in order to gain more consciousness. And the collective consciousness of the planet has been increasing. We will get 2 more strands of DNA on December 21st. So that will get us up to the top of the third density capacity. The next 2 strands would put us into 4th density range of capacity. Everyone's not going to get that. In other words, between now and next August 6th, those who are able to grab the baton and begin running the race with awareness, make the decision whether they're going service to self or service to others, will get the additional 2 strands of DNA on August 7th.
So if you're polarized, you'll get the additional 2 DNA.
Yeah, if you're not, if you're still undecided, if you're in that probability of 72% of the population on Earth, then you're just going to do another third density experience. Now, that does not mean that everyone that is still third density is just going to be vaporized and disappear from view. My understanding is everyone will live out their normal life. But no third density beings are coming into the experience now.
Starting. You say no third density.
No new third density beings are being born.
Started when?
Well, that actually started in 2000. And since 2000, only 3% of the children that have been born have been third density beings. The other 97% are all 4th density spiritual beings.
In transitional bodies.
In transitional bodies. Yeah, and those, that 3%
There comes one.
have a shortened lifespan. They will not live a full third density experience. Okay? Now, how we experience third density is we talked before when we were talking about evolution. We were talking about evolution being a process of dispersing consciousness into lower levels. And as we evolve, we accumulate consciousness through our experiences and progress up through the densities, gaining additional consciousness. Okay, so in first density, it's very alive, very much conscious, but a very dispersed level of consciousness. And there's, virtually speaking, no individualization. We begin to be individualized in second density, and we experience life as plants and animals. Primarily in second density, we're learning. In first density, we're primarily learning through sense, through touching, through atmosphere contacting earth, through fire being in contact with different parts of earth and atmosphere and so forth. And it's a tedious process. It is not measurable by time. I'm trying to measure it by our time would be meaningless, I'm told. And second density also does not have a time limit on it. We're learning emotions. And if you observe animals and plants even, through interaction one with the other, we're learning emotions. We're learning individuality. We're learning personality. Then we begin third density. We skip that second density part. In third density, we begin again by being dispersed. And how we're dispersed is a third density being is invested by sixth density in what is called a soul stream. And I'm trying to illustrate this being the beginning of third density, and this being your sixth density higher self. And in between here, you've got fourth and fifth density. And y'all have already been warned about my drawing capabilities. Okay, to begin a third density experience, this is a soul stream. This is all sixth density energy. It's all your higher self's energy. It is simply invested into a lower level of consciousness that is experiencing creation through the dimensions that we discussed. The dimensions are what frame, what create our experience. As we begin a third density experience, we are dispersed into 1,729 bodies. Okay? And that is all of the stable of students of your higher self. That's not just you, that's all your stable. It's roughly you as an individual personality or being are dispersed into roughly 4 beings. Okay? As you have experiences, as you collect consciousness, your spirit is consolidated. It's consolidated until we get to where we are now, which is at the brink of graduation. Let's say we're at the end of the experience. At this point in time in the third density experience, we are divided into 4 beings. There is me and 3 other parts of me that are the same energy that are existing at the top edge of this third density experience.
The 1,729 have been consolidated for us now into 4.
No. It's been consolidated down into 384.
To 384.
My higher self, and I presume everyone's is the same, started with 729 of us little rugrats running around.
1,729.
Yeah. And at this point has 384 students. So we consolidated from this to this over 76,000 years.
What is the 4?
Well, therefore, this 384 is divided by 4,
Oh.
which is actually a total of 96. As we graduate to 4th density, we will again consolidate this 384 into 96. There are 96 whole beings in this 384.
All controlled by our 6th density top.
All part of this. As we progress, and as 4th and 5th density progresses that are in the soul stream, spiritual mass is gained at 6th density, and 7th density too, but for our purposes it's experienced by 6th density. And this is how Ra revitalized itself, by investing its energy into itself, but in a third density experience. And as it moved up through the levels of consciousness, it collective spiritual mass at the top. And Ra is now balanced here. And we are no longer in a fall system. We're out of the woods, so to say.
Any question that all of us are not Ra, part of Ra? Are we all part of Ra?
Now, some of us, there are many of us here that are wanderers from all 9 aspects of the Creator. I've met wanderers from Da, quite a few from La, a few from Ya, and I don't go around, checking everybody that I meet, but just had occasion to.
And this is something that we can determine from our muscle testing?
Yeah, just ask your higher self. But it's something that wanted to be experienced. And that's why our population has blossomed up to the 7 billion that it has. It has nothing to do with us being higher consciousness and more productive sexually. It's because everybody wanted to be here to experience what we're doing.
Hence the baby boomer generation.
Yes, exactly. Because the baby boomer generation put us right here in time to experience the end of the third density project.
Dean, at the beginning when you were talking about the fact that we decided to skip second density,
Uh-huh.
did you, I don't remember if you said it, was the reason that we skipped second density is because we were in a hurry to balance out Ra? I mean, what was?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we skipped second density in order to make a third density experience. So we have a number of difficulties that are not normally, if there is a normal experience in our other third density experience. First of all, we skipped second density. We were in a negative scenario. We tried to rush through the system. We were interfered with. Our DNA was interfered with, so that we couldn't progress as we normally would have progressed.
Who interfered with it?
Fourth density negative group of beings.
Orion people?
Orion, but the Draconians, the lizard people, apparently are very adept at manipulating things genetically, and they were the ones supposedly that interfered.
I don't suppose we can interfere with them, can we?
We don't want to.
Don't want to mess with them.
We don't
We don't
want
wanna
to
go
as
there,
bad as they are. You're supposed to rise above that.
Okay, any questions? And we are here, those of us that are here in third density are here by seniority. And when I first learned about that, my first thought was, oh, gee, that's great. We're here by seniority. We're the best, of the 4. And which is not the case at all. We're here by seniority because we need the additional experience in order to graduate. So of the 4, we're the bottom of the heap.
We're the neediest.
We're the neediest, exactly. Yeah, more is to be gained by elevating or graduating those that aren't doing so well as opposed to those that have already done well. Which is another hindrance to being here now.
But that's true for third density beings, not for necessarily ones who are coming to help.
It's not true for the ones that are coming to help. I suspect that the draft was enacted in order to get the people to come to help. Surely there are a lot of volunteers, but there are a lot that really didn't want to be here. Okay, does all this make sense? Any gaps, any holes that aren't clear?
Just if in the sixth density, there's 1. And in the lowest level, there's 1729. And we're working up toward being at the 96th level, right? As we're
Yeah.
passing the third and fourth. When you talk about somebody coming back down from sixth or fifth density to help, what happens then when they're coming down here into the midst of this and they have 1,729 parts of them?
Well, they come down with equivalent levels of consciousness. You have to enter in, there are no special privileges, you have to live by the rules. But you're not divided into 4 parts. You're not consolidating and moving up to the next level of consciousness.
So by the end of fourth density experience, the 96 will consolidate into,
Significantly fewer. The way,
which is in,
Yes, they crunched the numbers.
direction of becoming a social memory complex.
what happens in the social memory complex that is formed in fourth density is this 96 is the social memory complex. This consolidation from 384 to 96 is what happens when you move to fourth density. When you move to fourth density for the first time in your evolutionary process, from 1 through 3, you are a whole being. You are yourself. And that aspect of you that is formed when the 4 parts of you merge together is the personality that you will maintain all the way up through the ranks. But this 96, all of the same higher self, are what works to form a social memory complex. And that is the social memory complex that is formed in fourth density. This then strives to move to fifth density, but the transition from fourth density to fifth density is different from third to fourth in that it does not have to be as a social memory complex. You must form the social memory complex in order to graduate from fourth density.
And there's no harvest from fourth to fifth.
There's no harvest. When you're ready to go, you just go. But to move from fifth to sixth, you can move as one unit as a social memory complex, or you can form a larger social memory complex. Either way will get you to sixth density. Okay? So those of us that are in third density and moving to fourth density are about to experience the most dramatic change in our whole evolutionary process, because we are making that final merger with our other parts and becoming a whole unit. Okay? Okay.
Any way you look at it, we're all in sixth density.
We're all one.
Yeah.
We're all the creator. This is just how, and we chose to do this because this is service to the creator. This is how we serve the creator, by having these experiences and moving through the densities. And as we do, we build additional spiritual mass, which filters all the way up the rest of the system too. And that's why when you have experiences, you cannot help but serve the creator. Whether you deem them from our perspective to be good or bad or positive or negative, it's equal service. Okay?
Yeah, even service to other, even service to self is
It's service.
benefiting in the creator.
It's service, absolutely it is. And you couldn't have service to others if you didn't have service to self, because you wouldn't have any polarity. Wouldn't be anything to balance.
Good stuff.
So, And obviously, okay, now Ra is in seventh density, so Carol still maintains somewhat of her personality within that seventh density experience, along with whatever other Ra personalities are involved,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So really, at the level of creator, does the creator have a personality?
Creator does have a personality. The creator has many aspects too. And that's a very difficult concept to understand, and it's one that I still struggle with, is to understand how you can have a personality and still be
Everything.
everything. But in all of my experience in communications, there have been very distinct, different personalities. And even in talking to Ra, there are multiple personalities within Ra.
Right.
Very, very distinct. And the image, an image that I was given to try to help me understand is kind of like a video display, and the image that I got was a horse, and like on the inside of the skin of the horse were displayed faces, you know, like a video, and they weren't, you know, just protruding. They were just like a display that they were part of the horse. They made the horse, but yet there were still distinct parts within that entity that was the horse, which is kind of an awkward display. But I'm
Yeah, I
saying,
thought
show me something.
That is a little, that is a little weird they picked a horse.
Yeah.
Carol was real fond of horses.
Oh, okay, well, not so weird then, I guess.
Yeah. Okay? And that is the evolutionary process. And again, it's all spirit, has nothing to do with our bodies or physicalities. We'll change those. The bodies that we will get going to fourth density will be the same body that we will keep through fifth and sixth density. It's much more electrical body, and it simply is adjusted to accommodate the additional or the higher level of consciousness.
So for the children that are born currently, or 2000 and on, and they're in their transitional bodies, the rest of the third density bodies go away. We're only left with fourth density transitional bodies and fourth density bodies. Will the aspect of third density in those transitional bodies just fall away, and they'll just adjust
They'll
and
merge.
change?
They'll merge. Their
They'll
spirit will merge with their other three fourths. Yeah. And again, fourth density is nothing like third density, so it's very difficult for us to equate, you know, how all that's going to happen. Okay? The other thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about tonight is the Orion group. The Orion group is the collective name of the service to self in this part of the world, part of the galaxy. Excuse me. Expand that beyond the world. They are very interactive with us. They do not play by the rules, and so they intrude upon our existence. They are, for our intent purposes, geographically headquartered in the Orion star system. That's where they get their name from. So that is a negative service to self star system. They're not the only ones in our galaxy. There are multiple ones in our galaxy. Service to self is the path of separation. So they do not form social memory complexes as service to others. And I'm biased, and I refer to me because I consider myself on the service to other path. And so when I'm saying us, I mean service to others, and the other guys are the service to self guys. It's a bad habit I have doing that. But they do not form social memory complexes as we form social memory complexes. They do have to form social memory complexes, but it's more of a pecking order. I mean, if you think military ranking, you know, you have somebody that's the general, and then the rest of the order is lower ranks below the head do, and it's a very competitive situation. But it is a very viable path, obviously. We are anticipated, the probability is that out of our experience, we will have a 12% graduation of service to self. At the current time, I understand that we have a 16% probability of graduation of service to others. All the others in the graduation process are probably going to be doing third density again.
If you look at the big picture from the standpoint of those who are choosing path of service to others, that Orion group, that side is really just a catalyst, isn't it? It's just for us to move,
They're a
for
catalyst.
learn and move through.
They're a catalyst for us as we are a catalyst for them. Absolutely. That's all that it is. Actually, what occurs is between the two apparent or appearing opposite extremes is dynamic tension. And it is that dynamic tension that permits us to have all of the experiences that we have. And so they're a very vital part of our experience. Of the three phases of third density, what is usually expected to happen is that you have some number graduate at the end of the first third of the experience. The bulk of the population will graduate at the end of the middle experience, the second experience. And then the third experience is just to mop up what's left. Well, on Earth, our experience, the first third, we had no graduates. In the second third, we only had 150 graduates. And those 150, as a group, decided to stick around and continue to incarnate. And we know most of them as what we deem to be saints.
Spiritual leaders.
Yeah. And then the third, was supposed to be mopping up. And even out of this experience, after all the help that we've gotten, we're still looking at graduating only a total of 28%, and that's both service to self and service to others. So it's been a very difficult experience. Challenging. But the Orion group is headquartered in the Orion star system. It's one of many others dispersed throughout the galaxy.
Washington, D.C.
Well, I wouldn't even get that specific, but their purpose is to try to graduate. They still use the principles of love, but they use it in a different way. Service to self differs from us. That if you consider, we talked before about the entropy, the scale, with this being low consciousness and this being high consciousness, high being absolute stability, absolute stillness, this being the creator, this being as far removed from the creator as you can get, this being absolute chaos. Okay? What service to self does is they don't play by the rules. They steal energy. They steal consciousness from service to others as well as from themselves. They have to form that pecking order, that hierarchy. And how they form the pecking order within their own ranks is those that are more efficient at stealing energy from others rise higher in the ranks. And of course, we were talking before the session started about abductions and things of that nature, and for the sole purpose of instilling fear and chaos. Well, when we respond with anger to anything, when we respond with fear to anything, then we are generating, we are giving our energy away to service to self folks. So when we demonstrate hate of service to self folks, we're giving away our energy, we're feeding them. One reason that they're so adamant about maintaining control is they've been dining well for a long time. Okay? So in all of the spiritual literature and all the spiritual teachings, regardless of from what source, you know, they emphasize forgiveness, emphasize gratitude, and feelings of that rather than harboring fear, harboring anger. Well, the reason that it is there's nothing for them to steal. And that's why situations improve when you demonstrate forgiveness, when you show gratitude, as opposed to fear and hate and anger and so forth. Because you're cutting off the food supply. Now, the interesting thing about the service to self and the way the service to self works is you can progress up through the ranks and it gets to a very narrow path. Most of the fourth density beings that are in fourth density have been there a long time, like millions and millions and millions of years, because they don't allow each other to graduate. If this group of beings is my food source, my energy source, in order for me to hold my position or to progress, I've got to keep these guys in place. They've got to keep feeding me. And the guys above me are holding me in place because I'm feeding them. And again, the energy flows upwards.
That's fourth density,
Well, fourth and fifth, that's the negative path.
or the negative side, yeah.
Yeah, that's the service to self path. The fifth density guy is doing the same thing. And a primary difference between fourth density and fifth density beings is just like what we would deem to be a well-run corporation. The guy that's a very successful corporate manager, the head guy, does not take all the rewards that the corporation generates. He takes the lion's share, but lets some of the rest filter to the middle management as well. Keeps them happy, they keep working, they work harder. The same is true, that's the wisdom of fifth density. Doesn't let them get out of control, but allows them to reap some of the benefits, as long as they don't get too ambitious.
Now, how does that relate to the fourth and fifth density of self-service to others? You don't have that dichotomy going on.
Not at all. There's
Everybody's
path-
helping each other?
Service to self, yes, absolutely. Service to self is totally a path of separation. The guy that lives on Venus is the lone pony. That's his domain, that's his castle. We are his domain, we are his territory. We are his fields that he farms in order to get his energy. And fourth density are his minions, his worker bees. And they found fertile ground in our third density experience also to work. And service to others is the path of unity. There's absolute unlimited help available in the service to others path. The average, just like third density is 76,825 years, fourth density is 30 million years. Fifth density is 30 million years. The average time of a fourth density service to others being in fourth density is 30,000 years. The average time for a fifth density service to other being in fifth density is only 3,000 years. The average time in fourth density service to self is 2.6 billion years. Our fifth density guy on Venus has been in fifth density for 23 million years.
Our 70 or 80 or 90 years doesn't seem like much, does it?
Can't even get your starting blocks set up by that.
So when we do act out out in anger or, fear, we're basically feeding that fifth density entity on Venus.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And our task here in third density, in addition
That gives
to,
that a whole different perspective.
in addition to making the choice of whether you're going service to self or service to others, is unattached from the physical. And that's all of the teachings of Eckhart Tolle and many others. But by unattaching to physical, then we unattach to that need for stability that stimulates our fear, that stimulates our anger. And we begin to realize who we are. We begin to develop relationships and rely upon the spiritual nature of our brothers and sisters on the service to others path.
Well, when you think about all that time and all the stuff in there, you just think, well, why worry? It's like that song, don't worry. Just
Alfred E. Newman had it right years ago.
Yeah.
We just didn't listen. Okay. Any question about what we covered tonight?
very good.
Next week we're gonna delve into wanderers and indigo children and background people and some of the variety of types of spirits that we are and that we have. Okay. I thank y'all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank
Good stuff.
We'll have this on the YouTube in a day or two, so if y'all need to refer to it or whatever, that'll be